Okay guys, put attention please. We're starting video 2 here. Second example. Okay, check this out. Mr. Miyagi has 35 milliliters of a 20% solution. How many milliliters of a 60% solution should he add to obtain the required 30% solution? Okay, so he has something, you could think of it as lemonade, whatever. 20%, it's not that strong. He has something that's way stronger, 30%, or no, 60%. And he wants to know how much of this really strong solution to add to the weak one to make this nicer 30% finalized solution. So, once again, do this. So if you have this general idea of any mixing, then you'll know that it's really going to be something plus something that'll give you a new something, right? And since we're talking about percent strong of a solution, you're talking about the percent of this first amount being mixed with the percent of the second amount to give you a new percent of a new total amount, okay? So let's take what we know and plug it in. And where do the variables belong? They belong where what you don't know. Okay, that's what a variable is. It varies. You don't know what it is yet. That's what we want to solve for. That's why we're creating an equation. So when we say that Mr. Miyagi has 35 milliliters of a 20% solution, they give us something. Where does the 20 and the 35 belong? That's what he has. He has, this is the amount, guys. This is the amount. And this is the percent of that amount. Does that make sense? That's what he has. So we're talking about 20% as a decimal is going to be 0.20 or just 0.2. Now, what's the amount of that 20% solution? 35. So that's what I want to put right here. In the amount, that's 35. Okay? Now, that's what he has. This is representing 20% strong, 35 milliliters. What else does it say? It says how many milliliters of a 60% solution should he add? So he needs to add how much? We don't know, but we know that it's 60% strong, so that's 0.6 or 0.60. And like I said, we don't know the amount. It says how much does he need to add? So that's why we put X right there. And of course, this equation is going to equal a new percentage. What's the percent that he wants to obtain? 30%. So that's why we have the 0.30 right here. And the new total amount, well, that's going to be a little tricky because if you have this original amount, 35 gallons, 35 ounces, 35 mLs, and you have this new amount that you're going to add to it, so it's going to be 35 plus X right in this parenthesis. 35 plus X. That's where you need to pause. That's where you need to let it sink in and make sure that you understand this. All right? Again, the general setup, percent amount plus percent amount equals percent amount. It's always going to be a setup when you're mixing things. Now, there's going to be other word problems that you're going to be mixing things, but you're not going to have percents. You're going to have dollars, right? Dollar values per pound. So it's the same thing. We'll get to those later. I'm not going to waste time right now on that. But do we understand how to set this up? Okay, now let's use the calculator. Help me out here. What is 0.20 times 35? 7. Ooh, nice. 7. And then let's bring down the plus. And 0.60 times x, that's just 0.60x. Or you could just say 0.6x. What? 0.60 is the same thing as 0.6. Yeah? And when you multiply 0.60 times x, it's just 0.6x or 0.60x. Now over here on the right side, 0.30 or just 0.3 times 35. Help me out. What's that? 7.5. 7.5? 10. Oh, 10.5. Sorry. Don't get mad at me. 10.5. Okay, and how about 0.30 times x? That's going to be 0.30x. Or just 0.3x. Shugare? Okay. Now, do we understand that we need to solve this equation? We have an x here and an x over here. You can't have x's on both sides of the equal sign. So I want to get rid of one of them. I want to subtract the 0.3x. Cancels. subtract the 0.3x, it's not going to cancel. It's like saying 60 cents, take away 30 cents. You're going to have 30 cents left over, 0.3x. Let's bring down the plus 7, bring down the equals, the 10.5. And now let's solve this thing by subtracting 7 here, subtracting 7 over there. So you really have 0.3x equals $10.50, take away $7. That's going to be $3.50, 3.5. For my final step, I need to get rid of the decimal 0.3 times x. So I'm going to divide by 0.3, divide by 0.3, and I don't know what that is. You guys need a calculator for that. What is 1 point what? 11.6. Okay, so I'm hearing x equals 11.6. The 6 repeats, huh? So that's really going to be 11.7. Okay, so x is about 11.7, so we could say 12, right? So what did we just answer? What did we just find here? It says the original question was, how many milliliters of 60% solution should he add? So about 12 milliliters. So that's your answer, about 12 milliliters. You got it? So this percent amount plus percent amount equals the new percent, new amount, new total amount. That's great for all mixture problems. However, notice this word problem doesn't even have any percents involved. So in this case, we're going to have to go back and replace the percent with dollar symbols, right? So you're going to put a dollar symbol right here. You're going to put a dollar symbol right there. Okay, that's going to be the price per pound in this case. So listen up. Let's read through this carefully, slowly, and try to make sense of it. Mr. T's company sells blended tea for $25 a pound. Blended tea, all right? So that's what he sells. What are we talking about? We're talking about making this blackberry tea with dried blackberries that cost $10.50 per pound and blending it with black tea that costs $35 a pound. So the question is, how many pounds of black tea should be added to 5 pounds of dried blackberries to make blackberry tea? I know that sounds very confusing, but let's go to the actual question. How many pounds of black tea should be added to 5 pounds of dried blackberry? All right, so I know that I want to have the blackberries and the 5 pounds right here. So I'm going to put 5 pounds right there. And instead of percent, we have dollar signs in front. Now, I got the 5 pounds from here. And I'm talking about 5 pounds of the dried blackberries. So how much do the blackberries cost per pound? It says up here, blackberries cost $10.50 a pound. So that's going to be a 10.50 or 10.5. Does that make sense? Again, I got a feeling that we're confused here. We're making blackberry tea. All right, blackberry tea. How do you make blackberry tea? Well, you got to mix dried blackberries with tea, and then you get your blackberry tea, right? So the question says, how many pounds of black tea should be added to? So you're going to have 5 pounds of dried blackberries. Yes. So that's my first initial amount. The amount is 5 pounds of dried blackberries. So you need a dollar sign to represent dried blackberries. It says blackberries cost $10.50. So I put $10.50, and there's 5 pounds of it. Now the question reads, how much of black tea? So how much do I need to add of black tea? Now, I don't know how much, but I do know how much it costs for black tea. How much does a black tea cost? Per pound. Per pound? It says black tea costs $35 per pound. So I want to put the 35 in place of the dollar signs right here. And it says, how much should we add? I don't know how much we're going to add, so I'm going to put an X right there. So it's 35 times x. Does that make sense? And now we have the equal sign over here. And the new blackberry tea, we already know how much that costs. How much does a blackberry tea cost? 25 per pound. On the original, it says he sells the tea for 25 per pound. So that's going to be $25. And we're going to have a new total amount. Now, we know that we have the 5 and the x as the amount. You have 5 pounds. You have, I don't know how many pounds, but total pounds is going to be what? 5 plus x. I hope you guys are following along here. This is where you need to stop and make sure you understand all this. So instead of the percents, we had dollar signs. Dollar sign right there. We had a dollar sign right here. We had a dollar sign right here. You could scratch out percents because it's not a percent mixture problem. This is a mixture problem, but where they give you dollar signs instead of percent. So once again, the question says, how many pounds of black tea needs to be added? So this is my black tea. I don't know how many pounds, so that's why I put X for the amount. I do know that the black tea costs 35 per pound. That's why I put a red 35 right here. 35 per pound for the black tea. And I do know that I'm adding the black tea to 5 pounds of dried blackberries. 5 pounds of dried blackberries, which cost $10.50. That's why I put the $10.50 right in front. Now, I know the final product is blackberry tea. How much is the blended tea? It's $25 per pound. So I put 25 in the dollar amount. And now the total amount, well, if I had 5 pounds and I don't know how much more I'm adding, the total amount has to be 5 plus x, whatever that x is. Now it's just a question of solving. Once again, you have amount plus another amount gives you a new total amount. So we know this first amount was 5. It says how much do I need to add, so I don't know how much I'm adding. Let's say I added 1. What is 5 plus 1? 6. So the total amount would be 6, right? What is, if this were 2, 5 plus 2 is 7, right? 5 plus 2 is 7. If this were 5, well, 5 plus 5 is 10. But the thing is, we don't know what this is. But what I do know is that my total amount has to be this guy added with this guy. So that's why I put 5 plus x right there. Okay, now we have the equation. Now let's use our calculators to solve. What is 10.5 times 5? 52.5. And 35 times x is 35x. And then 25 times 5 is 125. And 25 times x is positive 25x. We need to solve this puppy. We have x's on both sides. You don't want x's on both sides, so let's get rid of one of them. Let's get rid of the 25x by subtracting 25x. You're going to have 10x left over. You're going to have the equal sign. You have the 125 on this side. You have the 52.5 on this side with the plus right in front of the 10x. Now let me solve right here. So solving, I don't have to subtract 52.5 to cancel. Subtract 52.5. You guys have calculators, help me out here. What is it? 72.5. And then we're going to divide by 10 at the very end, right? And when you divide by 10, yes, it will be 7.25. So my x answer is x equals 7.25. So let's go back and remember what this means, because I don't even remember what x means right now. X was, where's x in my equation? It's right here. So we're talking about the amount of that black tea that I needed to add to those 5 pounds of dried blackberries. So that's 7.25 pounds. So that's your answer. X equals 7.25 pounds of tea. I hope that makes sense.